Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Another Adult Podcast. I'm your host, Howard Cam, and if you're a fellow Gen Xer, high school teacher, or just someone who's fed up with the everyday absurdities of life, you come to the right place. Now, you might be wondering, what's this show all about? Well, it's pretty simple. You send in your questions, and I give you my unfiltered, off-the-cuff answers. So if you're ready for some real talk, a few laughs, or maybe in a moment of, yeah, I feel that, then stick around. Let's dive into the glorious world of being an annoyed adult. Okay, this question is it just me, or do students not have decent manners to say excuse me or thank you? Does it feel like you're living in some bizarre parallel universe where basic human decency has gone out the window? Or I mean, when did saying excuse me or thank you become this optional extra? It's like we're raising a generation of tiny entitled dictators who think the world revolves around them. Okay, but let's break this down. Let's break this down. It's not it's not just about manners. I think what it comes down to is respect. And respect is something that should be taught at home, reinforced in school, and expected everywhere else. And the first things first, see, it's parents, right? This is to the parents. Parents, hey parents, wake up. See, your kids, parents, aren't going to learn good manners by osmosis, right? You can't just hope they pick it up from TV or their friends. No, no, no. Parents, you have to teach them what good manners are. And not just like teach them, but model that behavior for yourself. Because if you're walking around like an asshole, don't expect your kid to turn out any different, right? Like we all see the parents and they go out with their kids, and the parents have like their sunglasses on indoors in a store and they never say thank you or please. Like your kid's learning from you about that bad behavior. So why do we expect your kids to say like thank you and please, and then when they get mad because they're quote unquote disrespected, it's because they learned it from you, parents. They learned their shit manners from you. So if you have good manners, then maybe your kid will have good manners too. Okay, look, I know what you're thinking, right? You're thinking like, oh, Howard, these kids these days are so busy with their screens and their sports, and I don't know, whatever else they're doing, and they don't have time for manners. That's bullshit. I mean, come on. When did we start using the phrase kids these days as an excuse for bad behavior? Because kids have always been kids. Kids have always been kids. Kids will do what kids do, right? And they've always had distractions. You can't blame screens for everything. I mean, I kind of sometimes want to blame screens for everything, but that's not true. Like when I was growing up, we played Dungeons and Dragons and we did other things. That was our huge distraction. I mean, but at some point, someone decided that teaching them to say please and thank you was less important than teaching them how to swipe left or swipe right. And don't get me started on the whole like, yeah, they're just kids. Yeah, they're kids, and that's exactly why they need this guidance, right? They need adults in their lives who will set boundaries and who will insist on respectful behavior and who will not accept anything less. So let's talk about this from the lens of school, okay? Now let's talk about school. Because yeah, teachers have a role to play in this too. But here's the thing, we can't do it alone. We can reinforce good manners in the classroom, but if kids aren't learning it at home and they're coming to our classroom with a deficit, then that's not fair to them or to us. Okay? But here's what we'll do, right? I will insist on respectful behavior in my classroom. Like if a student bumps into another student and doesn't say excuse me, and they'll hear about it from me or they'll take something from me without saying thank you, and they'll be corrected. I'll correct them. That's my job, right? That's what teachers do. And for my students that are listening, or any student listening, if you're out there, saying excuse me or thank you is not a sign of weakness. And it's not going to make you less cool or less popular, right? In fact, it just might make people want to be around you more. Because who wants to hang out with someone who's rude and entitled? But here's the thing, manners aren't just about making friends, right? They're about being a good and decent human being. They're about showing respect for others and expecting respect in it and expecting respect in return. And that is something that I think we all deserve. Don't you think? So let's not make any excuses. Let's not blaming kids these days or screens or whatever else is convenient. Let's start teaching our kids to be respectful, decent human beings, because at the end of the day, I think that's what matters most, right? All right. So if you're a parent or teacher who's struggling with this, don't give up. Keep pushing, keep insisting on good manners, keep insisting on respectful behavior. Uh, but for the all, let's do our very best. I think our kids are worth it, and then we can make this happen. All right. Our question is, does anyone else have students grades 9 through 12 getting high in the bathroom? I feel like I've been transported back to the 80s with this question. Yeah, students getting high in the bathroom is as old itself, right? It's not new, man. It's not a new phenomenon, and it's certainly not unique to your school or even your generation, because kids have been sneaking off to go to the bathroom to smoke and vape and get high, like since the dawn of time, right? Or at least since the dawn of high school. Okay, first things first, I want to address this real quick. The number of students getting high in the bathroom is probably a vastly small minority. It might feel like it's more prevalent because these incidents are often more noticeable and disruptive. But trust me, the vast majority of your students are not spending time or their lunch breaks getting high in the bathroom. Most of them are going to the bathroom. It's really small, right? Because they get into trouble when they get caught or they come back when they're high, and it's super obvious, and that's why you probably think that a lot of kids are going to the bathroom to get high. So, let's talk about why this happens, okay? Kids, students, kids, they get into trouble for a variety of reasons, but at the root of all these problems is usually some form of escapism. I mean, that's what drug use is, just pure escapism. They're trying to escape boredom or stress, anxiety, or even like just the mundane aspects of daily life. And yeah, man, sometimes they have, broken social circles or family issues that contribute to this behavior. But I don't want to use that as an excuse to enable them, and neither should you, because addiction is powerful, right? You have a chemical that's just hijacking their brain. There's no denying that addiction is super powerful. I mean, it can grip a person and then twist their priorities around until all they can think about is that next high. But here's the thing, right? Addiction doesn't happen overnight. It starts with something small, or it starts with like a choice that you're gonna make, like some peer pressure choice. They're making a choice to try something or to experiment, to rebel. And that's where the education part comes in, right? As a teacher, as administration, as a parent, this is where the education part comes in, because you can't control what kids do outside of school. All right, if you're a teacher, but you can educate them about the dangers of drug use, right? We talk about them, how drugs are dangerous and it affects their bodies and their minds and their futures, and we can show them real life examples of people whose lives have been ruined by addiction. We can give them honest consequences. We can show them these honest consequences of getting caught and using or possessing drugs at school. Like we have all these rules, right? We show them all these videos. But here's where it gets tricky, because education is not asymmetrical. It's a two-way street. See, we can talk about it until like we run out of breath and we're blue in the face. But if the kids aren't listening, or worse, if they just don't give a shit, then all that talking is for nothing. And that's why it's so important to make your lessons engaging and relevant. Go ahead and use those real life examples or invite guest speakers or show them documentaries or movies that depict the harsh realities of addiction. Look, listen, I get it. Teaching isn't easy, right? It's a thankless job sometimes, and sometimes it can feel like you're like banging your head against the wall. But remember why you became a teacher in the first place when we're talking about kids running off to the bathroom and all that? It's because you wanted to make a difference, right? You want to shape young minds and to help kids reach their full potential. So, when you see a student getting high in the bathroom, don't just think about the immediate problem of, oh my God, they're vaping and they're getting high. Think about the root causes of it all. Think about how you can, educate that kid and others like them about, dangers of drug use. Think about how you can help them find healthier ways to cope with stress and anxiety. But also, I mean, be realistic. See, because you can't save everyone. It's super idealistic if you think you can save everyone. You can. The reality is, we're not going to save everybody. Some kids are going to make bad choices, no matter what you do or what you say. And I understand that's not okay, right? I mean, what you feel that's not okay, but it is okay. It's a harsh lesson to learn, but it's an important lesson to learn. Because at the end of the day, we're all responsible for our own actions and then their consequences. So, listen, keep doing what you're doing, keep educating, keep guiding, keep being that tough love figure in your students' lives. And remember, every kid is different, every situation is unique, and there's no one size fit all solution, right? But, have some patience, be persistent, do some tough love, and then you can make the difference. And then, if you're worried about all that smell and all that, just go get some air fresheners at that case, okay? All right. This question is, what is something you cannot imagine paying money for, but apparently other people do? Uh, at the risk of sounding like a grumpy old man, I want to talk about Amazon Prime because that is not something I will pay money for. Now, I know what you're thinking, right? You're thinking like, oh, you're just jealous because you don't have the convenience of 2 day shipping. So let me ask you something. If convenience is all it takes to separate you from your hard earned money, then you're in a world of hurt. Because first things first, this is a sunk cost fallacy. Do you know what that is? Okay, let me explain what sunk cost fallacy is for those that don't understand. It's when you keep throwing good money because at something because you think that since you've already invested so much into something, you have to keep spending on it and you have to keep throwing money on it because you've already invested into it. And see, with Amazon Prime, it's like you're paying to be locked into a cycle of consumption. You think, "Oh, I've already paid for Prime, so I might as well order this thing that I don't really need." And then before you know it, your credit card statement is just blasted out the window because it's so high because you keep buying things that you don't need because you think I have to buy something because I spent money on Amazon Prime. So let me break it down for you, okay? Amazon Prime is a classic example of a company preying on your laziness and impatience. And they're saying, hey, pay us $13 a month or whatever the cost may be, and we'll make sure you never have to wait more than 2 days for anything you want. And people are eating it up like it's like the last slice of pizza. Now, I know what you're thinking, right? You're thinking, like, oh, but what about the convenience? What about the time I save? Let me ask you this. Is your time really worth $13 a month? Because if it is, then maybe you should be looking into ways to make more money and not spend it on faster shipping. So here's the thing, right? You don't need Amazon Prime. You really don't. Like if you're smart about it, you can get free shipping on Amazon without Prime by spending $35 or more in a single order. Boom, free shipping, right? And if you're really that impatient, well, guess what? There's this thing called the library or, the store down the street. Everything you need is already there. You could probably save the same amount of money from the store down the street. Or if you really needed a book or a video, you can just go to the library and borrow that too. They're free. I know, mind blowing, right? So let me address this convenience factor. Yeah, Amazon Prime is convenient because you can just sit on your ass and then order from your phone or order from your computer. I mean, but so is eating an entire pizza by yourself while binge watching Netflix, right? See, convenience isn't always a good thing, especially when it comes to the cost of your financial well being. And psychologically, if we think about it, if you have Amazon Prime, you're more likely to impulse buy anyway because you'll go on the website, you'll see something you like, and because you already paid for this fast shipping, you think, oh, why not? And the next thing you know, you've got like a closet full of shit you don't need, and then your bank account's at zero. All right. Let's not forget about the environmental impact of Amazon Prime's free shipping. All of those packages being shipped out every day. Dude, that can't be good for the planet, right? All the planes, all the ships, all this air travel and the sea travel and the trucks and all the stuff has to come and originate from somewhere. All that packaging that you just throw away. And don't lie to me and say you recycle it. Come on, let's be real. You don't recycle that shit. But you think about it, like, oh, but it's free shipping. Yeah, but who cares, right? Who cares about the planet when you can have your new widget in 2 days? See, I'm not saying that Amazon is pure evil. They're just a business doing what businesses do. They're trying to make money. But it's up to you and I, as consumers, to be smart about our spending. See, we need to ask ourselves, do I really need this? Can I afford this? And then before you say like, oh, but what about all these TV shows on Amazon Prime and all these movies you watch? What about the music on Prime Music and all that? So let me tell you something. There's other plenty of other streaming shows out there that you can watch that don't require a Prime membership. You can get all the entertainment you need without shelling out $13 a month for Amazon Prime. Okay? So let's recap what I said. One, Amazon Prime is a sunk cost fallacy waiting to happen. It encourages impulse buying. It ain't great for the environment. It's definitely not necessary. You can still get free shipping on Amazon without it. And there's plenty of other ways to entertain yourself that don't involve throwing money at Jeff Bezos. See, at the end of the day, it's about priorities. If you value convenience and instant gratification over financial responsibility and environmental sustainability, then go ahead and pay for Amazon Prime, right? But if you're like me and you just want to see the value in being a little more patient and a little more frugal, then go ahead and cut that cord. Sometimes the smartest thing you can do is just step back and say, no thanks, I'll pass. All right. So there you have it. Okay. That's my entire rant on Amazon Prime. It ain't worth it. It's definitely not worth your time. And I don't think you need it. Go ahead and unplug yourself from that matrix of consumerism, right? Just because you can and doesn't mean you should. And that, my friends, is all the annoyed adulting we have time for today. I hope my unfiltered thoughts gave you a laugh, a nod of agreement, or at least made you feel a little less alone in your daily annoyances. Remember, if you've got a burning question, a perplexing situation, or just something that you really want to grind your gears about, send them my way. You can find details on how to submit your questions in the show notes. And don't forget, you can find the Annoyed Adult Podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Till next time, stay annoyed, stay awesome, and I'll see you later. Aloha.